Hey, it's Garrett Biss. Only a couple more days, we'll be joining at the Small Business Center sponsored event at Craven Community College on the 24th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I hope you've already registered and saved your seat. If you haven't, you still have a little bit of time to do so, but make sure you do it now before the seats fill up. So on the 24th at 6 to 9 p.m., we'll be talking about principles of success. And I'll be sharing so many different things that I've learned in my studies and through my life experience that really sets people apart who are trying to strive for and achieve certain successes in their life. The theme for the evening is how to get from where you are to where you want to be, and that's any area of your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's your professional life, whether it's your personal life, maybe hobbies or things that you're pursuing in your personal ventures. No matter what it is, there'll be things that we'll talk about, certain principles that we'll discuss on the 24th that will help get you further along that path and help a lot of those successes and a lot of that achievement that you're striving for come to you more easily by learning and studying and applying some of the principles that we'll discuss on the 24th. One of the things that we'll talk about is the power of affirmations. Now, if you're not familiar with what an affirmation is, it's essentially a statement that you make of a goal that you're working on, a goal that you would like to achieve, but you say it in the present tense as though it's already achieved. So a couple of years ago, I had an affirmation that I was using that said, I'm so happy and grateful now that I've published my book, The Spheres Approach. So long before I'd ever published that book, I was using an affirmation that was helping me, help guide me along that path and help that goal manifest in my life. One of the really interesting things about affirmations is for somebody who's not familiar with it and the power of it, it might not sound like a very effective tool, but it does some incredible things in our brain, in the way that we think, in our unconscious mind, in our subconscious mind, that can really help propel us towards those things that we're trying to achieve in our life. If you're not familiar with it, there's a term called a reticular activating system, and it's a part of our brain that filters out all of the data and all of the things going on around us in our environment and throughout our day. And at any given moment, there's billions of data points of information around us that our senses could sense and could relay to our conscious mind. Just where you're sitting or where you're standing right now or wherever you're watching it, this video, there's many things going on around you, and there's many things that you could look at and observe around you that you could feel, that you could smell, that you could touch, that's just not conscious in your conscious mind right now. You're not thinking about it. But if you were to stop and think about it, you would identify some of those things. Right now, if I were to ask you to think of your left toe, you could easily sense the sensations around your left toe and you become very aware of it. But until I put that thought into your mind, it wasn't something that you were aware of, even though you still had those senses of the sensations of that left toe. But once I said it, what it did was it opened up a pathway in your reticular activating system to allow that information, that sensory information, to engage your left toe and to allow it to be unconsciously on your mind. So the reticular activating system, very fascinating thing. We'll talk a little bit more about it on the 24th, but the reason I bring it up is because of all the information, all those data points that are around us at any given time. We're only conscious of certain things. This reticular activating system filters out all this data and only allows into our conscious mind things that we think are important or that might be important to us. So first and foremost, anything that could be a threat to us. So if you heard a fire alarm go off, instantaneously you would hear that and it would register in your conscious mind. If you're driving in your car and somebody honks a horn, instantaneously that becomes part of your conscious mind. You notice it. Any pains or sensations that you have in your body that might be an indication of a threat to you, you'll immediately become conscious of that. There's also other things that we're familiar with that will automatically be filtered through. If you've ever been in a busy place or in a shopping mall or out at a fair and there's a lot of noise around you and a lot of things going on around you, you're not aware of every word of every conversation that people are saying, but the instant that somebody says your name, you very quickly become aware that your name was said, and that draws your attention, and you'll look and you'll try to find who called your name. But until something had filtered through that reticular activating system, it didn't go through to your conscious mind, so you weren't thinking about it. So sometimes you'll see this play out in life. If you go out and you buy a new car, or if you go out and buy a new pair of shoes or a new shirt, and you're really, really excited about it, and you think, oh, I'm the first person to have this new car or whatever it is, and now all of a sudden you're going around town, you're driving around town, and everywhere you look, you see that same car. Everywhere you look in the mall, you see that same, the same pair of shoes that you bought and you weren't, and nobody had them. So you thought. In reality, they were no less prevalent before you had made that purchase, before that thing happened in your life, before you purchased that car. It's just that you weren't filtering it out. You were filtering out all those times that white pickup truck drove by. You just weren't aware of it. But once once that that becomes part of your life, well, now all that information filters through your reticular activating system and you see it. So that's why, a very long way of talking about the power of affirmations. One thing that we always allow into our mind, into our conscious mind, are things that support beliefs that we have, and beliefs about what we're capable of, beliefs about what's going on, and things that we're engaged in, things that we're interested in. I remember before I studied engineering in college, there was a lot of things that I just didn't, that I wouldn't have understood or wouldn't have been aware of if they were around me. But once I started studying engineering in college, well, now every time I hear somebody having a conversation about engineering, every time I flip through a magazine and see something that references either the university I went to or a topic that I studied, all of a sudden I see that and it jumps out at me because it filters through my reticular activating system. And this is where the power of affirmations comes in. A lot of times if we haven't achieved a certain goal in our life, if we haven't done something new that we're striving to do, there's a lot of things that take place or that are around us in our environment, a lot of resources, a lot of things that can help us that are around us all the time. But because this goal or because this achievement wasn't part of our life before, we don't recognize that data. We don't recognize those resources. We don't recognize those things going around us that could help us move forward or progress towards that goal. When you're using the power of affirmations and you repeatedly say these affirmations a couple times a day and regularly, what it's doing is it's reprogramming your reticular activating system to allow information, data, things that are around you at all times to filter through your reticular activating system and become implanted in your conscious mind and your thoughts. One way that this would work, as I said, I had an affirmation about publishing a book. So when I started to use this affirmation, I'd never published a book before. I had no idea how to do it. I had some thoughts, thoughts in my mind, but I really wasn't sure how to make this happen and how to achieve that goal. I started using that affirmation every day, and what I saw was it would filter. Now, as I was out in town, now as I was looking through a magazine or watching TV or surfing the internet, I would start to find things that were resources or ideas or things that maybe somebody I didn't even realize was a friend of mine who had published a book, and I didn't realize it because they never talked about it. It was never anything that was in the conversation. It was something that I wouldn't have brought up. It was something that I wouldn't have heard or overheard in a conversation that they were talking about it. But once I used that power of affirmations, once I began to reprogram that reticular activating system, now all this information that's around me at all times, these resources, all this data that can help me progress towards that goal, begin to filter through my reticular activating system. And now, just like hearing your name in a crowd, when you hear something, a resource or an idea, something that could help you progress towards your goal, when you hear that out in the world or when you're in conversations or when you're in a busy room, you begin to pick those things up and find those things that can help you progress. So affirmations is one very powerful thing that people have used to great effect in their lives. All the time when you're reading biographies of Olympians, you hear all the time how they used affirmations. Jim Carrey, I remember, he tells a very famous story about how before he was ever known as a comedian or as an actor, he used to use affirmations, the power of affirmations, and affirm his goal of I believe it was a $10 million check that he wanted to get as payment for his acting services. And he used to use an affirmation every day. Well, he's far surpassed that now, but when he started using that affirmation, it was so far out on the horizon that he couldn't see how he would get there, but the power of affirmations helped him make that progress. I want to share the power of affirmations with you, and I'll help you come up with some affirmations that you can use in your own life to get from where you are presently to where it is that you want to be. So I'm excited to share this and so many other principles of success to help you out in your own life, and we'll cover a lot of things. It's going to be a great evening. The 24th of October, 6 to 9 p.m., Craven Community College. If you haven't registered yet and saved your seat, be sure to do so right away. So we'll see you there. Have a good night.